If you'll indulge me, I'd like to start with a short visualization. So if you could put all your writing utensils down and find yourself in a comfortable seat, close your eyes. Now imagine that you have the following tools in front of you. First and foremost, a pristine sheet of rice paper. Secondarily, an inkwell filled with black ink. And thirdly, a Japanese calligraphy brush with a bamboo handle. Now in your mind's eye, please pick up the brush, dip it into the black ink, and with a calm, single, confident stroke, attempt to make a perfect circle. And once you have your circle complete, place your brush down. And open your eyes. Now what you've just attempted is called an Enzo. And Enzo is the Japanese word meaning circle. And it's closely connected to Buddhist philosophies and traditions. It's used as both a meditation and a calligraphic practice. It symbolizes strength, unity, and continuation. And just like the Enzo that you've all created in your mind's eye, it's unique to you and to you alone. And the reason I say attempted an Enzo is because no two Enzos are alike, and no two Enzos are truly perfect. Because you're trying to make a perfect circle, it's actually quite difficult to do. And I believe an Enzo can actually act as a symbol for what I call a beautiful business. Now, as an artist and a designer, I'm trained in the creation of beautiful things. But as an entrepreneur, I work with business leaders around the globe to mine and harvest their most deeply held beliefs. Bring language, story, and image to those things, and infuse them within the culture of their organizations, and ultimately express them to the outside world. And the fascinating thing that I get to see in the more than 250 businesses that I've worked with around the globe is that no two businesses are exactly alike. Even businesses that operate in exactly the same industry, and they may be direct competitors of one another, they can be very different in the manner in which they built, the manner in which they approach their work, and the manner in which they express themselves to the outside world. And there's one thing that I'm constantly reminded of, is that business is an ongoing and creative intention and creation of humankind. And it can be quite beautiful. And sometimes, as we've seen in some corporations, it can be not beautiful at all. Now, we humans are really interesting living paradoxes. On one side of us, we're the conscious, aware self. It's the self that defines our psychology. It's the self that defines our persona and our belief systems. And it's the self that understands where we end and where other people begin. That part of ourself is inextricably connected to the rest of humanity, to all humankind. And then the other side of us is the part that's evolved from our primal self. It's the animal within us. That part of us is inextricably connected to nature and to the natural world. Our biology still is derived from that natural world. And in fact, we still follow the rhythms of the natural environment around us. And I'm sure you could all imagine and remember a time and a place where you've been immersed into a beautiful landscape, taken by the natural environment around you, awestruck, if you will, dumbstruck, if you will, experience something that moves you beyond words. For me, I remember the first time witnessing the Grand Canyon. It's so vast. It's almost indescribable. And it's something that's an embodied experience, an experience I'll never forget. And I had a very interesting duality experience to that particular situation. I was both amongst it, in it, and fully connected to it. Because we humans are still connected to that natural world, we're constantly emulating through the things that we create the natural world around us. And I believe that emulation takes place in the things that we create. We're constantly looking to nurture, pull from, and exemplify the beauty of the natural world around us. And this goes for the products that we make, the clothes that we wear, and the businesses that we create. So by beauty, I don't mean the physical, superficial version of beauty that is primarily defined by the westernized definition of beauty, which has to do with the physical adornment of ourselves. That's primarily defined by the cosmetics and the fashion industry. But rather by beauty, I mean the Japanese definitions and tenets of beauty, which have to do with symmetry, harmony, and things that are in line with the laws of nature. These things are not just physical things or things that we see, these are things that we feel. And I believe a beautiful business both emulates nature and moves people from their current state into an envisioned future state that they can see and live their lives better. So in the work that I've done in so many different companies and thinking so deeply about what I call a beautiful business, I've arrived upon 3 pillars that I would describe a beautiful business. And the first pillar is what we call belonging. One of the interesting things about humanity is that we're born some of the most vulnerable creatures on this planet. We come into this world absolutely needing the care, the love, the nurturing, the feeding, and the shelter of other people. And that happens for many years in our lives. And it extends into our teens. And something quite beautiful happens at that point is we begin to create a value set, a set of our own belief systems that say, here's how I choose to live life. Here's what's important to me. And as we go into those things and we begin to extend ourselves into the outside world, into the schools that we connect with or we decide to join, into the clubs, into our places of worship, into even the universities that we attended to attend, we actually assign our own connective belief systems, our own values, to the values that we decide that the organizations that we're choosing to belong to. And so belonging is that element where our own values connect with the values of the organizations that we decide to join. And when those two things meet together and you're welcomed into those organizations, we have this thing called belonging. And one of the interesting things is that Darwin knew that this element of vulnerability was not just a weakness, but it actually, for us, it's our greatest strength. Our ability as human beings to connect, to collaborate, to improvise, and to work in a symbiotic system with the people around us is actually what makes our work incredibly powerful, and frankly, our lives worth living. So I believe that when an organization, a company, if you will, is very clear about what their core values are, and the core values are what I call the operating system to any organization. It's where the beliefs meet the actions, and those two things are in line with one another. The more an organization is public and expresses those things, the more likely it is to attract individuals who also feel some of the same things and then feel drawn to connect and to ultimately belong to those organizations. So Zappos is a really interesting example of this. Zappos is very public about how they articulate and express their core values. And they do that in such a way that it attracts employees who also believe and feel the same things. And they believe and feel those same things because they want to contribute to the mission or the purpose or to the values of what Zappos already believes. And the tricky thing is they're not trying to change people. They're not trying to take one person who has one value set and take it into another set of values. They're actually looking to attract people who feel the same way that they do. And the more that a company does that, the more that a company can onboard an organization, a set of individuals who belong to that organization and can contribute to the most beautiful and best parts of that organization. So the way Zappos works is they publicize their core values. They use those core values to attract, interview, vet, onboard, and train new employees. And they'll actually give you $3,000 to not take a job at Zappos after you've gone through their training. If you don't believe that you belong to that organization, they'll give you $3,000 to back off and say no. It's part of what makes Zappos customer service so great, because they're all aligned in their values. And the second pillar I've identified, once we have belonging, we can create this sense of harmony. And harmony is when all those things that happen within the organization, including the beliefs of the individuals, the beliefs of the organization, and how it is expressed and experienced to the outside world, all those things are in lockstep with one another. And when we have harmony, we all work together towards the same goal. An organization I work closely with is a company called H.G. Fenton. You've probably not heard of them. They're primarily a company in the real estate industry. And what they really do is they're in the business to helping people thrive. And those people include their customers and their employees. And they've been around for 110 years. And they have what I call a very organic culture to what they do. A basic set of principles and core values that allows and invites the genius of the individual to show up within that organization and be their best self for the role that they're hired to do. Now, that role might be in accounting, in manufacturing, or in customer service. But the difference between a role and a job is two different things. They're held up accountable to do their accounting work to the excellence that the organization sets. But their job is to help the organization thrive. And so when they contribute to that both and, helping the organization thrive and doing their job with excellence, it creates harmony within the organization. And then the third goal, or the third pillar, if you will, is what we call magnetism. We humans have really no defenses for natural beauty. And again, by beauty, I don't mean the superficial beauty. I mean the beauty that is deep within the Japanese philosophies, creating harmony and symmetry. Beauty is something that you feel. And beauty is something that we are all attracted to. Because we have no defenses for it as human beings, we're drawn toward it. Think about it this way. It's the proverbial flame and not the moth. So when one is the flame, we hold our own center. We create magnetism. And then customers and employees come to us. When we have magnetism, we attract people. An organization that does that particularly well is a company called Patagonia. And while Patagonia is best known for an organization that creates products and apparel for people who do outdoor sports, they really serve what they call people who do silent sports. Silent sports are sports that require no cheering crowd and no motors. They're practiced in natural environments. So think about skiing and surfing and rock climbing and trail running. They make products for people who are diligent, fascinated, and committed to doing those kinds of things. And what Patagonia does is they never chase customers. They hold to their center, they hold to what they believe, they protect natural resources, they develop products that protect those natural resources, and people gravitate in their direction. They create beautiful magnetism. So how does a beautiful business begin? It all starts with leaders making the clear decision and intention to build something that goes beyond simply making profit. And while profit is essential for any organization to thrive, it shouldn't be the reason they exist. I believe business is and can inspire quiet and radical acts of transcendent experiences that infuse belonging, harmony, and magnetism for the culture and the clients of those organizations. We humans are here to move the world forward. We're hungry for it. We crave it. It's what makes the work we do worth doing. Business done beautifully moves us from a realm of transaction into a realm of transcendent experiences. And just like practicing the Enzo over and over again, business can be made perfectly imperfect by human hearts, minds, and hands, done over and over again. And the beauty is, there's no limit to the amount of beauty that we can put into the world. Thank you.